Welcome to the Heart-Centered Entrepreneur Podcast. I want you to be rich. Yes, I want abundant financial success for your business. But I don't just care about your business making money. I care about you too. I want you to be rich in happiness, in the impact you make, in your relationships, and in how you give back. I'm Anna. I built my six-figure business as a side hustle while I was pregnant with my daughter in 2016. Now I've helped dozens of women do the same. I'm here to help you build a profitable, heart-centered, fully booked business with the latest tips on sales and visibility, with proven mindset hacks, and sneak peeks behind the scenes with what's working right now in the online space and in my business. Ready to make more money with heart? Let's go. Friends, I could not be more excited about today's episode. I have my beautiful friend Stephanie with me today. And Stephanie is someone that I've been connected with in the online space for years now, and I've always admired her work, her travel expertise. But I really was in a season of not doing a lot of traveling myself, so I never got to see her business from the inside. And one of my favorite things is being able to see my friends and or community members' businesses from the inside. And I got a chance to do that with Stephanie as I traveled to Ireland and as she supported me around creating a kickass itinerary. So we had a fun idea around her interviewing me so you can hear about my experience traveling internationally, because I'm getting a lot of questions about that. And then I want to interview her about her business in case you've been thinking about hiring a travel planner for Ireland or something related. And just understanding how she works, how she thinks, I think will be really fun too.
I'm so excited to chat with you, Anna.
Yeah. Okay. So first, if people have never met you, tell us like a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Sure. So I'm Stephanie. I am the owner of Infinite Ireland Travel Company. It's pretty obvious we specialize in Ireland travel, and I'm really lucky. I get to do what I love every single day. I mean, who doesn't love to talk about travel and traveling to maybe not just anywhere, but like their favorite place in the whole world. So I'm really, really lucky. I get to plan trips for people to go to Ireland in a authentic, connected way. And it's just so much fun.
I love it so much. Okay, well, I have like 1,000 questions to ask you in the second part, but why don't you just start and ask me any questions that are on your mind?
Okay, so I know I feel kind of selfish because I love a post-trip recap. Like I love them. But before we get into like all your loves and all of that good stuff, like I want to know, what was the impetus? Like, you are an amazing, successful woman. You have 2 adorable children, and you're like, I want to travel internationally by myself with them. Like, how did you come to that decision?
That's such a great question, because I think I'd had it in my mind for probably like 3 years now that I wanted to travel internationally with my kids. I really value my kids seeing other cultures, seeing other countries. It's why I'm obsessed with teaching my kids Spanish, just because I think when you experience the world, it makes you a more empathetic, well-rounded human. So I had that core value, but then I also had this part of me that was like, it does not sound fun at all to do this on my own. Like I even booked plane tickets last year for somewhere and canceled them. And we went to Disneyland instead because I was like, I don't have it in me yet. But this year I felt like I had it in me.
What was the change? Like, what did you like? What was the thing that was like, okay, I can do it now?
I think it feels like my kids are getting a little older, right? They're 7 and 9. They were like 6 and 8 when I booked it. And it felt like it was still scary, honestly, but it felt aligned versus last year. It didn't quite feel aligned yet. So it felt, I honestly didn't want to do it, but it felt right.
What's the saying? It's a stretchy goal. Like you wanted to do it, you wanted to make it happen, but you had to like stretch to get there. I think that's honest. That's real. I think anybody from the outside looking in, seeing you like take 2 kids on their own, across the pond. I mean, not just across the pond, across the states and then across the pond. I mean, that's that's impressive. Like, it doesn't matter how it went. Like you did it, like, period. That's pretty impressive. Okay. So then why Ireland? Like, how did you land on, I mean, of all the places you could potentially go, especially being, in California, you've got a lot of Spanish speaking countries nearby? Like, why Ireland? How did you get there?
That's such a great question. I actually think, well, at this time I was like, okay, I want to take my kids somewhere. This was like last year because I booked the trip pretty far in advance. And I was really thinking about Banff, Canada. I still really want to go there to the national park. It's just like a 3-hour flight. But then the plane tickets to Ireland were cheaper than the ones to Banff, Canada. And then Banff was going to be super snowy. And like, I was considering like 5 different places. And I think I actually, see, look at me just booking plane tickets and canceling them. I think I had booked it. And my friend was like, Anna, like, if you're just going to do something, like do it big, like do it right. And I'm like, yeah. So I just bought the plane tickets like 8 months before our trip.
Okay. So it was between like maybe cost and not necessarily the destination. It's interesting hearing that because, obviously I work with people who are like, I wanted to go to Ireland for my whole life, and that's a very common thing I hear, which I mean, there's a good reason for that. Like a lot of people have Irish heritage and of course they've heard about it or whatever. But it's funny to hear that like, it was, yeah.
It was a great reason.
No, it's not. It's a good reason. It's a good reason.
Well, and I had like top 5 places, right? So I had top 5 places. I was considering Italy, Ireland, Banff, 2 other places I don't even know. But my daughter it's so funny because even though she speaks a lot of Spanish, she was like, oh, Japan. We considered Japan. And she's like, Mom, I really am nervous about going somewhere where I don't speak the language, And I'm like, we'll be fine. But I think I realized like Ireland and US culture is more similar than like Japanese culture or like, so I was like, okay, if I'm going international for the first time, like, why don't we just take baby steps? So Ireland just felt like a baby step.
Yeah. Well, that actually leads me to my next question or my next thought. How did your kids, like, what did your kids think about this? Because it's a big thing. Like, did you announce it? Did you make like a big deal out of it? Or were you just like, hey guys, we're going to go to Ireland? Like, how did that come about?
I should have been more clever because when I took them to Legoland last year, I like made this whole Lego puzzle and like, no, Ireland, like I just told them.
Were they excited?
They were. I think it's so funny, but like what we grow up with, like, I don't think they like thought anything different. They were definitely excited they were very excited about the airplane because they've only been on an airplane like once before. Super excited about the airplane and the idea of a big vacation. Because a lot of times, like as a single mom, when we have 2-week break for school, they go to like YMCA for the day. Right. And so I think they were just excited to get like family time.
Yeah. That's really special. Like, and me imagine that was like, how long were you there? 10 days. 10 days. So 10 days of like complete focus mommy time. I mean,
yes,
that must have been fabulous.
It was really special. It was interesting. I was reflecting with my friend, like I didn't really get ready on the trip when I was there because like I was with them the whole time. So like for me, when my kids are in school is like, it sounds crazy, but like when I shower or when I take my time getting dressed. So like, I was kind of like scrubby the whole trip, but like, I didn't really care because I was just like in mom mode and taking that in and we really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Yeah. It is funny. There's something about vacationing with your kids that there's a little bit of it actually not being a vacation for you, right? Because you've got to be mom that entire time. Was that a challenge?
I think I went in because I coach a lot of women around related topics. I think I was used to knowing that as a mom, vacations aren't really vacation. They're more of an adventure. They're more for memory making. So I really went in with this mindset of like, this is an adventure. But ironically, it actually ended up being very relaxing and restorative because I think I had low expectations. And I really felt like we had so much downtime. Like, well, they were at the park and I was just like sitting on a bench for 2 hours or like, they went to sleep and then I had like 4 hours in the evening, but I really didn't have a lot of work. Right. So I actually ended up and we rented a car. So we didn't feel like we were in a hustle. Like it actually was a restful vacation at the end.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's like that's the goal, right? That's the way it should be.
You did your job well. You crushed it.
No, but more of like, I'm so glad to hear that because that's, I think a lot about this is, general trip planning, but like a lot about trip planning that people don't think about is that white space. You think about, I think about it in my life, like how am I creating this white space to like, whatever it's self-care or whatever it might be, the same goes for a trip, right? Like, how do you create that space where either you can linger a little longer at a site that really enjoyed, or, you can have some downtime where you can sit in a cafe and people watch or whatever it might be. So you're not like go, 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 but still have really full days full of really exciting things. But like, it becomes that rest, that big, quote unquote vacation that maybe you were hoping for. I'm glad to hear that. That's amazing.
I really feel like it's because of like two things specifically that you did with our travel planning. Number one, when you reduced our itinerary, like I came to you with like 4 different cities or something, or 5. And I was already thinking I was like being conservative, but I think you like chopped it down to like 3 to 4. And that really helped with the hustle. And then the other thing is this theory that you have around like oscillating traveling days with not traveling. And that was like, when I was in Ireland, I'm like, oh, I get it. Like, I get what she was saying, because like, for me, the nice thing, I didn't have to drive very far. Like I would drive like 1 or 2 hours, but still when you're traveling, like it's a travel day. And so to really have oscillating travel days and not having to travel was a huge game changer for that feeling relaxed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Those repositioning days where you're getting from one place to the other, but instead of like getting to that destination and having to explore that full destination that day, like enjoying the journey, like stopping along. There's a thatched cottage village here. Oh my gosh, let's get out and take some pictures or whatever it is. That's I think that's for all travel planning. Like that's not Ireland specific, although it's an amazing trick, no matter like where you go, like giving yourself that break. And so then you can really fully explore the destination, right? Like you picked a spot because it sounded cool or there was something there you really wanted to see. But like, how awful is it if you get there at 5, just everything closes up at 6, and then, oh, we got to go the next morning to the next destination. Like, oh, and so being like such a downer, right?
Totally.
Yeah. Okay. So you said something just a little bit earlier about you didn't have a lot to do in your business. I'm curious because I'm, as a business owner who also travels, like, how do you do it? Like, how did you manage your business while being present, while like doing all these amazing, wonderful things with your kids? Like, how did you set up your business for your trip?
Yes, I was thinking way more questions about this than I expected. And I kind of think about, it's interesting for me because like I launched my business 8 years ago when I was about to take a maternity leave. And so I think I just naturally have always thought about building a business that you can kind of take breaks from, which is so interesting because I think when people think about like passive income or all these sexy things, I'm like, I think they just want that because they want a freedom-based business they can put on the back burner. But I think we forget that even as service providers, done like you can create that too. And one thing that I do is I think about like whenever I need to take a break from my business, I think of is it like phase A or phase B, right? Phase A is like you need to completely take off from your business. Like you are having a baby or you are having an emergency or something, or maybe you won't have internet. Phase B is just like business very light. And I think people forget this option. And I like this option, meaning when I take business really light, I don't have client calls, but I support my clients on email support. It takes me like 20 minutes a day. I will like chat with my team. I'll like still move. I was like dealing with like a legal issue. So I was still kind of like pushing that along. And it really only takes about 20 to 30 minutes a day of work, right? And it's flexible work. And so I move my business back to this. And I also let my clients know like, hey, normally I respond to you within 48 hours. It might be more delayed than that. But the reason I like that phase B is it doesn't take so much prep work. When people plan to take a vacation and they want to have no contact with their business, it's like they're planning for the apocalypse, and then they're having to plan for a vacation and plan to like completely pause their business. And then they're announcing on social media, like, I'm going to be gone. And like, it's like this whole big situation instead of like, no one's going to really notice because our like, you're fine. Like, just chill with it. Right. So I think I really put my business in, like, I have it set like for my Christmas holiday. For a few times a year, I like go into B mode. And then the other nice thing is like, when you get back to work and life, it's not such a like whiplash reaction. You're just like easing back in a little bit. So how I set up my schedule is I have put all my client calls in 3 weeks out of the month anyway. So I have 1 week every month, either for travel or for just doing extra work of other type besides client calls. So I had already kind of had that week. That's the short of it.
So it sounds like you didn't completely like step away from the business. You just managed what you like absolutely needed to, and then kind of move forward with your day, with your travel day, as you had.
And ignored exactly. Like I show up for my business like those 20 minutes, and then I ignored it the rest of the day.
Was that challenging for you? Is it like, do you have any, like, is that difficult for you to do?
I mean, not really, because I think I kind of do that. It's pretty similar to like what I do normally in my day, except for obviously when I'm working normally, it's longer because I go on client calls. But I feel like I try to, my coach Lacey has this thing about open loops. It's a really great podcast episode. Basically, this idea of like not reading emails until you can actually respond to them, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I just think energetically over time, I've created better boundaries normally. So mm-hmm. I think it makes it easier a little bit when I'm away too.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Let me ask you, before I ask you about your trip, because I think this sets it up. Did you think you got out of this experience what you wanted to get out of the experience?
That's a great, I mean, yes, like short answer is yes. But I think I went into this, like, I'm someone that's like all or nothing. So I was thinking at the start of the year, like, I'm going to go international 3 times this year. I've never taken an international. I'm just like all or nothing, right? But I didn't book anything because I kind of wanted to assess. And I think being away, I mean, we had a great time and I'm so glad we did it. And forever memories. But I think I'm like a once a year international travel person, right? Because when I got back home, one of my friends was like, I'm thinking about you. I know it's hard to like get home after a vacation and like, not be having it. But I'm like, I'm so happy to be home. I love my food. I love my gym. I love my girlfriends. Like, I just have such a little routine here in San Diego that like, I like it. And mm-hmm. So I think like I'm a once a year person.
That's amazing. I think that reentry piece for people can be super challenging.
I had more than one person ask me about that.
Mm-hmm. Like for me, I can remember, this was at a point in my life where I was not like in the best space. Like I was working, in higher ed, and I had to go back to my, 8 to like 8 p.m., job kind of thing. And I remember landing in the US and like bawling my eyes, like, I can't do it anymore, And so sometimes being away, and I think partly because in that instance, it was like really like your, exit A or, time off A plan where I was just completely out of it. And it was just so amazing and wonderful. And then,
yeah, it is like that black and white experience, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, and that obviously in my life has changed dramatically as I have moved into a new world, into a new kind of career in my world. So that's not an issue really for me anymore, because I always know like I'm going to be back into Ireland, very soon. But also like, but I can really feel for those people who have that like, that reaction, because it can be really hard. So you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what I'm hearing from you is actually because you've created boundaries kind of from the get-go about your business and about your kind of personal business life, and that reentry piece maybe wasn't as difficult as
it might be because like I have done a good job of creating my dream life, but it also might just be because like, I don't know, maybe my
You
personality.
love your home.
Maybe I'm like a creature of habit or something, which is bizarre because like I'm an Enneagram 7. Like I am someone that historically like doesn't like change or routine, but like somehow I've turned into this creature of like, I love drinking my hot tea every morning. I love my yoga class. Like I love like just my little routine over here.
No, I think I've moved in that direction myself. Like there is something nice about being in your own bed, like when you're back from.
When I laid into my sheets, I was like, Jesus, like this is like I just love my sheets. I love my little tiny house. Like I just really do like it here.
Yeah, and that's a sign of a good life. That's a great thing, actually. Yeah. Okay. So tell me about your trip. So how about first, I mean, I'm sure not everybody knows a ton about Ireland. It's a small country, but actually it's very hard to like do the whole thing in 10 days, and a lot of people initially kind of think that they want to do. I wouldn't recommend it, but that's a whole other podcast. So tell me kind of as a rough guideline, like where did you go on your trip? Like kind of give me like if I was a little car moving about a map, in Ireland, where did you roughly go?
Okay. And that's one thing I did right when I booked the trip is I printed out a Google map of Ireland and I plotted out our trip and I told my kids, this is the city we're going to. And so they knew the whole time. Probably they remember better than me, but we landed in Dublin, but I knew right away I'd been to Dublin in college and I just wanted to be in the countryside more. So we went right from Dublin. We took a train over to Galway. You'll have to correct me on all these.
Galway, yeah. Good.
Galway.
Yep, you're fine. Oh my goodness. Irish pronunciations, place names, people names, even I still very much get them wrong. They're so gracious about it. Don't ever feel funny about there's like a vowel in every other letter of a word. So it's fine.
So we took the train to Galway, and then from Galway is where we got our car, which I was so nervous about driving in Ireland on the left side. I thought I was like, is this the worst decision of my life? I wasn't sure. And then from there, we did some cities down and ended up in Killarney. Is that how you say it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then from Killarney, we took the train back and stayed near Dublin. That was our little loop.
Okay, a little loop. What were your favorite things? What did you love?
Oh my goodness. It was honestly amazing. Like I'll start with my favorite memory and then I can share all the other ones. Or no, what should I start with?
No, yeah, go ahead. Do your favorite.
My favorite memory was driving down. I think it was, is it Dingle or Doolin?
Yeah.
That's like
Doolin from Galway. I think you went
No.
Dingle was the one that's
all the way on the edge.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so towards the end, we were like driving out to Dingle, this little town, and I'm driving, and like there's these I was so shocked about like the beautiful green pastures and just like obsessed with these green pastures, right? And as we were driving down, like we get to the water and you can see the ocean, but not just the ocean, but then there's the mountains in the background. And then on the side, there's the cliffs. And I'm like, my jaw dropped to see like the sheepy, like for me, I love ocean and I live by ocean, but to see like ocean and mountains and rocky cliffs and the pasture, like, wow, like my brain exploded.
Mm-hmm. It's gorgeous, isn't it? Like just gorgeous. Yeah.
So that was one of the highlights because I think there are just moments where like you get so in routine and habit that you forget that other things exist. Mm-hmm. And so it never even crossed my mind that could exist.
Mm-hmm. You were there in lambing season. Were there little baby lambs like around in the pastures?
No, we didn't see any baby lambs.
Oh, okay. Next time. So your favorite was the scenery. You loved it, like particularly Dingle, which is like among my most favorite places as well. I mean, as well as a lot of other people's, but it's gorgeous.
Just stunning. That was for me personally, like selfishly, like if my kids weren't there, like that was my personal highlight.
Mm-hmm. What else? What did your kids love? What was their favorite?
When I asked them what their favorite is, they say, well, so when we went to tour Trim Castle, which you recommended right outside of Dublin, which that was my favorite castle we saw of all the castles, because on the inside, it's like light and bright and open. Like some of the other
Mm-hmm.
castles, I'm like, am I going to get trapped down here forever? Like, am I going to come out alive? Right.
Yeah.
But just light and bright and open and beautiful castle. And at the castle, the tour guide gave them each a little chocolate, an Easter chocolate. And so they remember things like that, like the tour guide giving them a chocolate, or there's this pizza place that we ate at in Dublin that they really cater to kids and they like treat them like royalty and are just sweet to them. And so my kids remember that pizza and talk about how good that pizza was. So I think like they just remember when people were like sweet to them.
Yeah. Isn't it funny how, and this is probably funny coming from somebody who's like, the ultimate planner, but like the best moments tend to be the ones that you don't plan. Like that you didn't plan for, that they happened organically because you were either there at the right place at the right time. But I mean, I think you could tell me if you had a different experience, but generally speaking, the Irish people are like amazing. They're just, hospitality is in their bones. And so it's very easy to fall in love with not only the place, but the people.
Yes. Yeah. No, we had a great time. And like you said, like just those everyday things. Another one of my favorite memories that I shared a reel on was when we were in Galway, we exited out of our hotel because my kids were like kind of quarreling in the hotel room. And so whenever that happens at home, I'm just like, let's get out of the house and go for a walk. Like my default is like, let's put on a podcast. Let's go out for a walk. Like just, this isn't working. So I do the same thing in Ireland, right? I'm like, just put on your shoes, get out of the hotel. So we walk out and there's all these people walking in one direction. And I'm like, let's follow them. Why not? Right. But then like they keep going. And it was like a good, like 10 minutes, like continuing to walk. And I'm like, is this a music event? Are they walking to the town center? Anyway, we get to a sporting event. And I'm like, what sporting event is this? So like I asked the guy at the ticket counter, like, are kids allowed or whatever? And he was like, yes, but don't worry, I'll only charge you for one or something. And I'm like, well, that's okay. Like, whatever, So I don't know why he thought it was expensive. It was like $30, but 30 euros. But he was like, don't worry, I'll only charge you for one. I'm like, okay, whatever you need to do. Right. So we go into this rugby game and it just was an amazing time. It was like mostly just like the locals. Right. But I told on my reel, I said like this one mom, like I was just standing next to her and she was like, I think she could tell I wasn't from there because like my kids are blonde. And ironically, I don't think there's a lot of blondes in Ireland because people were always asking if my kids were twins. I don't know why. They were like, are they twins? I'm like, no, they're not. But anyway, just the sweetest mom. She was like, told my kids to like go play with their kids on like the side fields. And she's like, they'll be fine. I'm like, okay. I'm like, I'll and then she like bought me a drink and just was like chatting me up. And like, it was lovely, a lovely night of like, I think because I didn't have the expectation on like tourism, like we had to see 900 things. We just had some really great life moments, playing on really cool playgrounds, like going to that rugby game and just letting my kids chill. Like it was really fun.
That is like one of my most favorite things to do with kids, or like to tell parents to do with kids, is like take your kids to the playground. Like, not only for you, that's interesting that happened at a rugby game, but oftentimes like this, my husband and I, we have, 2 little boys and we spend a lot of time at parks, our playgrounds all over Ireland. And the most fun conversations happen at the playground, like, because parents are standing around, talking with each other. And, you find out so much, not only about, what's going on in kind of like kid world in another place, but also, tips and things. Like people, they're curious, like, why are you here? What are you doing? And then they're happy to like give you, well, you should go to dinner here tonight, or so-and-so's playing music there in the pub, or whatever it might be. And like, it's that white space. It's that time to like have those conversations. That's amazing that you had that like instinct just to like go with the flow and just do it. But what an outcome. That's That's so fun.
It was more just survival, right? It was more just like, get out of the hotel room.
Get out of the hotel. Yeah. I'm done. Let's go.
But I do think it was like, and that's why I'm so grateful. Like a lot of planning went into this trip, right? Like you really helped me identify the cities that we're going to. And then ahead of time, I really booked a lot of like our main things, like biking on the Aran Islands, or like I really, of our cities, what I needed to book ahead, I really booked it. I probably a little last minute, but it was like a few months ahead. Got all our hotels nailed. And so I feel like and I think about this in business too, the things that need to be cemented, cement those, right? And then I think it gave some of the things that were a little bit more wiggle roomy was like, I would look up, okay, where are we driving tomorrow? We could go to these 3 places. Which 2 do we want to go to? I kind of like made a little like Google Map cheat sheet since I was driving solo. So I already had my little link set up ahead of time. But I do think it was such a balance of like cementing in the things we wanted to do, but between that, just like really following our intuition.
Mm-hmm. How was driving solo on the left?
Oh my God. I remember texting you before and being like, I am so nervous. Is this the worst decision I've ever done? Because I remember realizing like, oh, because Ireland isn't like Japan where you're going to have a ton of public transportation. Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't realize that till after I bought the plane ticket. And I was like, why did I? But anyway, I was like, okay, I'm going to do this, And then I was like, is this a bad decision? I don't know, pros and cons. The best thing you did was you gave me that link to that YouTube driving instructor. What's his name?
I don't remember which one I sent you. There's a couple. Was it,
who knows?
I have a couple and I don't remember which one I sent you, but anyways, you can look them up. There's quite a few, but it's actually driving instructors. If you go onto YouTube and search driving on the left in Ireland, you'll have a lot of people that will be just like filming themselves or their whoever else in the car. And it's typically a lot of expletives and like, oh my gosh. And that kind of thing. You want to look for the one that's, official driving instructor Ireland, and then you'll find them.
Yes. The one you sent me was so good. And so basically for a month.
Teague. That was it. I think I sent you Dane.
Yeah, that sounds right. And I think he mostly is making these videos for Irish drivers, Irish adolescents learning how to drive. And for me, it was just so nice. And here's the thing, granted, I live in San Diego, so I drive in a very big city. I parallel park. Our freeways are like 10 lanes wide, right? So I think that helped a little bit. But, so watching a lot of videos with point of view being on the left, learning about roundabouts, reading all the street signs, like I really studied, and I included my kids. I made them watch the videos too and learn the street signs. And so it was so beautiful. My daughter made me this little note that said, let me see if I can say it right. Wide right? No, tight right.
I'm not sure which one you're going for.
Just to remind you, wide right. It's wide right, tight left when you turn.
Yes.
So they would like made me little notes and they would remind. So it was like really like a family affair. And after like the first hour, it was so easy. Honestly, it was great. And I didn't feel like the first few days we had to catch the bus, we had to catch the train. So it was just nice to not have to catch anything anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it is daunting, right? Like that initial fear of like, okay, I'm going to be not only driving on the left, but B, for you were driving solo on the left. I love your kids though. Like that's amazing.
Yes. They were in it. They were in it.
And like, but also then you've got the road structures are very different than they are here in the US. I mean, very small roads, some roads that are like,
so small.
One lane, like they would be 1-lane roads, like
not even 1 lane.
Not even. It would be like a, back farm road or something, here, but they are 2 lanes and there absolutely could be oncoming traffic and you just have to pull over and navigate. So that's intimidating. Like
and nothing's a grid. Like here in San Diego, everything is like a square. Like no road is like the reason there's no 4-way stop is because there's no corners. Like everything is like roundy and turny. Like there's no straight roads.
None whatsoever. Yeah, you're right. But you survived and you did it. And that's, I love to hear you say that actually, not even that it was easy. I mean, I'm glad it was easy for you, but like that it was a good decision, that like
it was the best part of the trip. Like driving in the Irish countryside, just me and the kids, knowing we can stop, like best. It was like my favorite memories were in the car.
Oh, that's lovely. All right. So let's talk about like maybe not necessarily what you didn't like, although maybe you have some of those things, but like, what would you change? Like, what would you do differently? Or maybe even for your next trip, like Japan, like what would be, how would you,
oh my goodness,
how would you change it up?
I don't even know. I think I'm just still like writing the bliss from this trip because like it was so good. Like I was looking back on some photos before we hopped on this call and I was like, oh, we went to that like beautiful tea house, right? Mm-hmm. And we got to see that waterfall and we got to hike the cliffs of Moher and like we got to go to the national park. Like I'm shocked at how much you fit in for us for how chill it felt. Like it honestly felt, I think it's because as a mom, we're used to doing 900 things in one day. Like we know what it's like to like get the kids to school, go to yoga class, answer 9 client emails, go to this, get them in bed, pack the bag. Like, so honestly, for like, this felt super slow and relaxed, but we did a lot, but there was really like one thing a day, right? And so I'm just so in awe, Stephanie, of like, and I could not thank you enough. I just feel like you gave us the lifetime gift of like, I know I need to ask you questions too, of like an immaculate trip. And for me, it was like effortless and easy, but that's only because of your expert. It's like anything seems like that way, right? It seems like, oh, that was so easy. But the reason it was so easy is because of your literal decade of experience knowing Ireland. And so I just cannot speak highly enough about hiring you and working with you because I feel like I got the ease of like, oh yeah, it's like an overnight success as a business, but like it's overnight travel Ireland trip, but because of all your knowledge, all of your connections, you know, the beautiful, kind driver you connected us with, like what a gift you gave us.
Oh, I'm so glad. That's the goal, right? Like if you create a business, it's not just that, you know, you want to be successful and, you know, have, a successful business in whatever your, goals are for the business, but like the outcome for the travelers looks easy, seamless.
Looks
like,
easy, right?
You know,
but
like
it's not. It's like, think, and maybe this can I ask you some questions?
Yeah, yeah, of course, yeah.
Like, what do you like for me on my end, right? Like you gave me this beautiful, really smooth, clean itinerary with like the right contacts and the right things to see, right? And really simplified a lot of decision fatigue, right? Because there's like 9 billion things you could see, but you're like, Anna, just go see this one thing, right? But tell me a little bit about behind the scenes, like what goes into creating a product like that seems so easy and seamless. Like can you unpack that for us?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things. The first thing is knowing your destination, particularly for travel, right? Like knowing your destination in and out. Like I often think that what we do is matchmaking, it's like, connecting the right experience, the right partner, the right contact, the right person with whatever that client profile is. So, so knowing the destination and knowing what's available, like having that like Rolodex, so to speak. But then so that's kind of part A, but I think more important even is getting to know the traveler. Like Anna, we've been in each other's worlds for like,
you know me, right?
Yeah, like for a really long time. And I think part of that is so I kind of had a leg up even before, we even started talking specifically about this trip. But like part of what we do is, having not just a discovery call. Like I will do a discovery call for a half an hour with someone just to like kind of get to know them a little bit. And then so they can get to know us and see how we work. Because we work very differently than kind of like a traditional travel agent or a travel company. And then I get back on the phone with them. It's not just like, oh, you want to go to Ireland? Okay, you need to see these 6 sites and here's your trip and like a package and that's it. Instead, it's okay, you want to work with us? Fantastic. We're going to hop back on the phone for 90 minutes and we're going to hash out your itinerary together. And you're going to get to yay and nay all along the way. And before we even do that, I'm going to barrage you with like 900 questions about like, what would make this trip meaningful? Who's going to be there? What are their hobbies? What are they interested in? Like, what would make that trip not just a trip, but like a life memory? We want the experience to be a life memory. So it's getting to know the person, the travelers, and then connecting them with the right experiences that make the most sense for them. So I think it's twofold.
I love that. And just makes sense, I think, for any business. I think that's as heart-centered entrepreneurs, like our expertise is like, we're really personalizing. We're like caring about that person and making it custom, right? I would love to know, like, why Ireland? Like, when did you first send your first client to Ireland? And when did your passion for Ireland start?
Oh my goodness. Okay, shortish version. So my husband and I traveled to Ireland for our honeymoon. 2006, I was like 4 years old, like young in my, like now my almost 41 version of myself. Like, we got married and I had not traveled internationally before. And so I was like, we're doing something. I didn't care where it was. Like, I was actually kind of like you. I was like, sure, Ireland sounds great. Sounds relatively easy. English speaking, I kind of dip my toe into the water and then see, maybe we'll go elsewhere, which I've been very blessed to have gotten to go to a lot of different places since then. But Ireland, that first trip, it captured my heart. Like, it captured my heart. I loved it. And my husband and he fell in love with it too. We went back and we went back. And around 2012, travel blogs were all the rage. And so I was like, I like to write. I'll write about our trips to Ireland. And I was in higher education. I worked in student affairs and I loved being in higher education. I loved working with students. I love one-on-one work. But I like slowly transitioned into study abroad. So like I moved myself from student affairs. I went into study abroad and then I started this travel blog. And but kind of like slowly shifted my whole life around travel. But it wasn't until 2015 when a woman emailed me. My blog was getting, some good traffic, but I wasn't really like, it was just a blog. I wasn't really doing anything with it. And a woman emailed me and she was like, can I just pay to get on the phone with you? It's like, oh, this is a business. It's a business. Okay. And so I met with her. We had a great conversation and I was like, I wonder if anybody else would want to chat with me. And so I threw up a sales page on the website. It was consultations. I think I started with like 30-minute consultations and lo and behold, lots of people actually wanted to talk with me. And then it snowballed from there. We went from just doing, 30-minute coaching to, full-on custom itinerary design. And then the pandemic happened, which kind of put a stop to all travel. And at that time, husband and I, we had a heart to heart and it was, what am I doing with this? Is this, my kiddos were growing up and, going to be in school. And I was like, I think if I'm going to do this, I'm really going to do this. And so we rebranded, we started a full travel planning and service management service. And it has just ballooned from there. I mean, I would have, if you would have told me I was doing this like 10 years ago, I would have laughed at you. I would have thought you were absolutely crazy. But it has been the most wonderful, wonderful journey, really.
I just love that story so much. And almost how I actually started off blogging too back in the day. And I just think like, what a fun era of like, again, like it was different than social media, but like same concept of like, I just want to write about this. I just want to share about this thing that matters to me. Right. It's so funny because our driver that you recommended actually, who picked us up from the airport, would not shut up about you. He was just like, and he's Irish, but he's like, I'm always asking Stephanie for recommendations because she knows Ireland better than I do, How did you get to a place of knowing Ireland so well and networking with local Irish people, et cetera?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And it's really funny because I came up into this industry so organically as a consumer, as a traveler. Like I did not come into this as a travel agent or a travel company. And so I didn't know how all of that worked. I just knew that I loved staying at this B&B, and everybody else that, had kind of a similar profile, like should stay there. like, and so it was more for me about um, connecting and learning from people who were doing things that I thought were unique and fun and really local and authentic. And so I've created a system in which because once you get into it, when these small local companies, it's a actually very small ecosystem in Ireland. And so once you get to know, Dave, the driver guide, and he's like, oh, you have to talk to so-and-so. And then, so that's snowballs to then another contact. And then, for me, I'm based in the US, but Zoom has been wonderful. I have so many Zoom meetings with, partners and people in Ireland that, I've been able to develop really true relationships with people. And so it's just happened over time. I mean, it really has just, the relationships have grown. Oftentimes I will say like my partner, but oftentimes it's like my friend, like I'm introducing my friends to my friends. Like that's what it feels like. And it's, so it's really, I can't say that there's a secret sauce or anything, but it's really using the network that I initially had just as a traveler. And then now, as a professional, putting my professional hat on and saying, this is who we are. This is what we do. These are the people that we serve. Do you think this might be a good match? And then really, truly meeting with those people, going to Ireland. I'm very lucky to get to travel to Ireland often, not only, as a, professional, but with my family. Like we will still go there and we vacation. And when I vacation, like, unless I'm visiting, friends and stuff, it's like people don't know who I am. And so I'm still getting that bubbly feeling that, those kind of firsthand experiences. And so it's really fun for me to pass those experiences on to others.
I love that so much. And really, like, you are someone that so naturally builds relationships and connections. You're just like easy to talk to, right? So I think the cool thing when you hire a travel planner is that you're getting all of their relationships, all of their that's really what makes the difference. And like some of that just takes time. But like for me, I got to like steal your time, right? And like when you told me like to do Ollie's Cliffs of Moher hike, right? Like whoever, I can't remember his name, but the young guy, he's like a young college kid, probably like 22, that like, and no one else showed up that day because it was super rainy, but it was just me and my kids. And they still did it. And we got like so muddy, but it was like an amazing hike. And there's no way I would have done that with my kids by myself. But because we had that like 22-year-old college guy, and not only did he guide us and educate us of like, what was what, but he was also like super helpful with the kids. Like when my daughter was starting to complain about the mud, he's like, come on, you can do it. You're doing a great job. So I just think like it is so useful to have, and I never would have accessed that if you wouldn't have given me that contact, right? How do you manage keeping track of all the contacts and relationships, professional and or otherwise, that you come across?
You should see my spreadsheets.
I know you have a spreadsheet. I know, because you're so organized.
Yeah. So no, I do. So there are, by every county in Ireland, I have a spreadsheet, and for in each county is accommodations. It's, driver guides, it's experiences, it's amazing food. This is a place for traditional Irish music. And what's really nice, because I work with so many people, I do these like recap calls with everybody. And so I will often I will actually often get more than I
Yes.
expect when we have those recap calls, because people discover things for me and they want to share. They're excited about their experiences. So they want to share what they find. And that just, adds to my list of like, so-and-so had a great experience here, and maybe I'll head there on my next trip, check it out, and so it's ever growing. I mean, that list will never be like stagnant. There's always something being added. And it's also then those are the places that I reach out to, and I can say, hey, so-and-so client just stayed here. They had an amazing experience. Here's who I am. This is what I do. I would love to send more people your way. Maybe we can connect, on Zoom or next time in Ireland. And so from there, then, the relationship builds. And people who love what they do in Ireland are easy to connect with, because they want to share their backyard with people. They want to share that experience with people. And so it makes, that it's like the best possible scenario, right? Like it just makes for everybody, it makes the experience better. And then you become, the one, like the three people on even a public tour that not everybody knows about, right? Like, and you feel like you get just like your own little slice of Ireland. That's like your own thing, just because it's not the mass. You could have, only gone to the main Cliffs of Moher Visitor Center and been one of hundreds, if not thousands, of people there, or you could have seen the cliffs that 99% of the people in Ireland did not see.
And get like nice and muddy and talk to like a young Irish boy that like we got to like just like understand like how he thinks and how, his brain works, and just get to know someone local too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's the thing typically people remember, right? Is like the people, like, oh my gosh, we had the best conversation with so-and-so. We talked about, anything, American politics. Well, you might want to stay away from, like, but honestly, Irish love to talk about, like,
they do, like five different people.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, everyone would say like, Ireland isn't very political, but, and then they would like, dive in, like
they have their opinion.
The lady at the rugby game, the lady on the train, like everyone wanted to talk about politics, which is just so interesting to me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. It is. Well, because you don't realize it, but U.S. politics and has such a huge impact on the rest of the world. And so I remember thinking that the first time I went to Ireland, I was shocked about how much what was going on in the U.S. was in the Irish news. Like we would come in from our day before we go out to dinner, and my husband would like flip on the news and watch it, which was so interesting. But it was oftentimes there were, at least one or two segments about what was going on in the U.S., whether politically or otherwise. And it really surprised me. But then over time, because I've had those kind of conversations with people, like you realize like, oh, wow, what we do really impacts these small, the whole rest of the world really, but it's these small countries that rely on the rest of the world, so it's just interesting.
So interesting. Okay. Tell me what, I could like interview for a whole nother like 7 hours, but tell me like one more question. Tell me what, like when it comes to owning a business that is a travel agency, like what do you feel like you do different when it comes to travel?
I think what we do different is connecting, and like it's connecting. It's the connection. Like I said before, a lot of travel agents, and I have a lot of travel agent friends. There are some amazing travel agents out there, like amazing. And so this is not, it's just different. And so I want to make sure I preface that first. But a lot of travel agents, have never traveled to Ireland. Like they are working with partners, hopefully on the ground. Hopefully they're working with local partners. But oftentimes they don't have that local knowledge, that expertise. They can't give you like this restaurant, oh my goodness, you have kids, you need to eat here. And I think that local knowledge is that's the thing that like, no matter who you're working with, you want to ask them when was the last time you went there? Like, can
Yeah.
you give me a specific example of anything? Like, give me one hotel that you love and why you love it. Like, ask them a nitty gritty detail so that you get a taste or a sense of what they know, like, or who they know. And so I think what we do or what we excel at is connecting our travelers with the right places, the right boutique B&B, the right, experience or guide or whatever it might be. Because, because we're not packaging it up. It's you get to yay and nay all along the way. We're not working off a commission. So, you pay us a fee and it's a daily fee. But I guarantee you what you get out from our daily fee is bar none better than what you're going to get from a mass produced package of here are the 6 main sites in these 7, or 8 locations across Ireland in 7 days. Yes or no, like for me, that makes me feel a little, so I think the big thing that I always like to make sure people feel is that they've been seen, and then that like they're going to get the experience that they want out of hard-earned dollars, time. I mean, all of the things that you sacrifice when you travel.
I love that so much. What comes up for me is just how you're saying, like, it's true. Like when you hire a travel agent or any service provider, number one, hiring someone that loves what they do, right? Like is obsessed with their country, right? Is like loves what they do. And then also has really like specialized there, right? And cares about relationship, cares about that personalization piece.
Yeah. Yeah. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a destination specialist, although I've got such an amazing small network of people that do all sorts of other places around the world. But it does mean like making sure that they are connected with the right people who can connect you, right? Like, so just making sure that they do have that at least first initial contact of like, I know I'm going to get something unique, different, special. Yeah. And it's worth it. I think it's worth it. I mean, travel it can be truly life-changing if you let it.
I love that. Okay. Sorry. One last question and then I'll let you go. Tell me this is going to be a hard question. Are you ready for it?
I'm ready. I'm ready.
If you could only go back to one place in Ireland for the rest of your life, one city, and the rest of Ireland was demolished, which city would you visit again and again and again?
Oh my gosh.
I know this is a bad question.
That's mean.
I know.
It's mean. Oh, okay.
You can have a runner-up. You can have a runner-up.
All right. All right. So I think,
if I were to take your time.
If I were to pick one city in Ireland, honestly, I think I wouldn't pick a city. I would pick like a town in the countryside because I believe, while I love Dublin and Galway and all of that stuff, I think the magic of Ireland often is in the countryside. And so I probably would pick a place like Dingle. We talked about Dingle. Dingle's my first. Because it has everything. It's got the charming town and like the gorgeous scenery and the beautiful walks. And I picked Dingle. The second runner-up, I think I would go up to Donegal. So Donegal is in the north west corner, not in the Republic still of Ireland, but it's near an area that's wild and rugged and beautiful and far less visited. So that would be my runner-up.
I love it. Do you have pictures that I can put in the show notes of one or the other of those?
Of course I do. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. We will put Stephanie's pictures in the show notes. But do you have any parting words for our listeners if they are thinking about either traveling to Ireland and or just being brave and traveling in general?
I would say, I don't like the just go mentality. I mean, like, because it can be a lot harder than just go, but take the baby step to working towards going. So if it's like, I don't have the money for that. Okay. You don't have the money for that right now, but maybe you do in 5 years. What do I need to save every year in order to make it happen in 5 years, 10 years, even? It doesn't have to be right away. But if you have that in your heart, if you have that dream that you want to do it, like take that baby step and make the decision, be intentional, make the decision to make it a priority, and then enjoy every moment when you do.
What good advice. I love that advice so much about the baby steps. One of my baby steps was just like talking to people about it. So like I messaged you when I was thinking about it. There's also one of my friends has a friend who travels a lot internationally with her kids. So I was like, I'm just going to chat with you on the phone for 30 minutes. Right. And I just started talking to people about it because it just felt so foreign to me.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it's not a financial hiccup. Maybe it's I'm just nervous to do it, or, I've got kids and I've got this challenge. Maybe it's food allergies is a big thing. Like there's lots of things that could potentially stop people from making that next decision, that choice. And so figure out what it is that's potentially stopping you, and then take that baby step of figuring out. Having a conversation is a great way. Talk to people who've done it before. Look at the Facebook groups. Oh my gosh. I'm in like 800 travel Facebook groups if you want to do. Like, just get in one or two of them, start reading, start seeing what people are talking about, and begin getting that knowledge. And then it maybe won't seem so daunting.
It's interesting you mentioned that. I forgot that I actually, 8 months ago joined a Facebook group called Families Who Travel. I'll link it in the show notes. But that was actually really imperative for me too, of normalizing same thing like when you're trying to start a business and you really want examples of other people that are in integrity. So like for me, it was like, I just don't know a lot of people with kids that are traveling personally. So for me, that group was super expansive to see like there are other parents, single parents out there traveling with their kids. And again, that Facebook group was really game changing for me.
Yeah. And I think that's it. You start to step your toe into that world, and that world doesn't seem so scary anymore.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yes. I love it. Okay. If people want to connect with you, Stephanie, tell them how to do that. Also talk about your blog, because I read at least 10 of your blog posts as I was prepping for my trip. I downloaded your itinerary that was printed out 2 different times. And I used that, not itinerary, travel checklist for packing. I used your packing checklist. Obviously I used the itinerary you designed for me. I'm obsessed with all your work. So tell us how to access it all.
Yes. So thank you. Yeah. So I am at infiniteireland.com or Ireland Travel Coach on Instagram. And so the best way to kind of get in my world is to download our packing list. So that packing list is kind of all over the site, on the blog posts, and on the homepage. So grab that, and that'll get you into the newsletter, which has a little drip feed of all my favorite tips and things. And I think that is the best way to kind of dip your toe into either traveling to Ireland or elsewhere. If you want, I've got, again, if anybody wants a recommendation for somewhere else in the world, like send me a DM and I will hopefully send you to someone who does what I do for another country. I'd be happy to share that. And yeah, I'd love, if there's anything that I would say, is just take that next step. And then, if it's Ireland, oh my gosh, I'd love to chat with you. Like, as you could tell, this could go on for a very long time, but also like I can talk about Ireland forever. So if you want to talk about Ireland with me, I would love to help.
I love that so much. We'll make sure all your stuff is in the show notes. And Stephanie, I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I just feel like truly it was a trip that went better than expected. I'll share my photos in the podcast show notes too. But just, I know it was because of your love and your expertise and your connections, and like a decade, like I got to borrow a decade of your Ireland passion and knowledge. And so thank you for giving that to me and my babies.
Oh, you are so welcome.
Hope you have a great Tuesday, and message us on Instagram if you have any questions after this. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for hanging out today. Please hit that subscribe button so you can make sure to stay updated anytime a new episode drops. And I would love for you to join me in my free Facebook community. It's called The Heart-Centered Entrepreneur. We discuss the podcast episodes. I regularly go live and do free trainings. And you may even meet your newest biz bestie. So you can join at heartcenteredcommunity.com. It's absolutely free, and I cannot wait to see you in there.